Let's move on to the next topic here that we have on the agenda. Lamar Jackson came out with some interesting comments. I want to know y'all guys' thoughts on it. He said defenses are calling out Baltimore Ravens plays this season. Zach, I know you've been on the front lines saying how you don't believe in this offense, so I want you to deliver your thoughts on Lamar Jackson's comments.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think when I hear those comments by Lamar Jackson, I think there are going to be some people that take them a little too literally, and I don't think defenses are literally just like going up to the line of scrimmage and blatantly knowing the Baltimore Ravens plays. I think that's exaggerating a little bit. But at the same time, I do think what has happened, Lil, I remember a couple weeks ago we were talking and you said the NFL is catching up to the Kansas City Chiefs and their offense, it's going to decline a little bit. I personally think that's what's happening here right now with the Baltimore Ravens, is that everyone knew who Lamar Jackson was, but no one expected him to be as dynamic as he was last year. And last year, I think one of the reasons why the Ravens were so good is because in an era where the league is really shifting towards passing with all these quarterbacks throwing darts down the field, the Ravens decided to zig when the rest of the league zagged and really focused their offense around the power running game and their offensive line up front. And with the loss of Ronnie Stanley, the fact that the league just has more tape and more information on the Ravens, combine that with the fact that Lamar is a good passer at best and they don't have a lot of weapons right now, I think it's concerning. And to be honest, I kind of saw this coming. Will, I remember we were talking about it. We wanted Antonio Brown to go there. This is the exact reason I wanted it. And I'm concerned about this team, man, because beating the Colts on the road is a good win. But at the same time, it's not changing my opinion on, are they at the top of the NFL like Kansas City, like a Pittsburgh? They have to win bigger games in order for them to get to that stage for me.
Exactly.
And that point that Zach brought up, I just want to touch on it. When I did say that the league is catching up to the Chiefs, I think we can put that on hold a little bit. Even though I do think teams is going to catch up with the Chiefs. You see the Panthers giving them a run for their money. You see a lot of teams giving them a run for their money. But I do think the NFL has definitely caught up to the Ravens before they did the Chiefs, before they reeled the Chiefs, simply because it's showing. And when you look at Lamar Jackson and you look at his comments, just think about it from this perspective. How embarrassing it must be to go to the line of scrimmage and you got a defense knowing exactly what you're going to call. Like, that would make me like, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I remember, like, when I was up at college, Zach, we went to the same college, and you're still up there now. When I went to the dining hall, and I used to get the same thing at, what's that dining hall in Corey Union, where they had, like, the bagels?
The Union Station.
Yeah, Union Station. I used to go, and I used to get my regular meal, because I'm a type of person, like, a lot of people like to, look around and eat a lot of different things and be dynamic. Me, I'm more that same. I want my coffee. I want my bagel. Like, I'm that type of guy. I like my regular schedule. So I used to get the same thing all the time I used to go down there. So it was one time I went on the line, and before I even asked what I wanted, the girl was like, all right, give him a bagel and a coffee. Everything I wanted, she knew. I'm like, damn, like, you don't got to blow me out like that. You know what I'm saying? It made me wanted to order something else. You know what I'm saying? So in this case, when Lamar Jackson is about to run a play, to hear somebody like, yo, they're going to run this, I mean, that would make me want to go and audible and do something else. And that just shows you how predictable the offense is getting. I know, granted, there's going to be – this doesn't only happen to the Ravens. I'm pretty sure it happens to other teams because you do watch film. But with the Ravens, it's a lot of predictability with the Ravens. We know Lamar Jackson is going to run the ball. We know he's not going to beat you with his arm.
No, man. You see, you guys pinpointed everything right on the mark. I just felt like right now their offense is really a college offense. If you guys didn't know, it's really a college offense. So I just guess Jim Harbaugh just based his playing style on that. I just feel like right now, just like you said, guys, film don't lie. You feel me? Like, the opposing team, they watch film on the same formation. What they do on first down, what they do on second down, what they do in manageable situations. You get what I mean? So I just feel like right now, Lamar Jackson just seen the reality to life now. It's just like right now, he's just like, shit, I gotta accept it as it is. It's either two things. It's either he changes playing style or like he just gonna have to play, be comfortable. And
I think it's a coaching too. A lot of that is a coaching. It's not like Lamar Jackson and much he can do. There has to be a coaching effort to switch up the plays and disguise a little bit more and come up with a little do what you do best, obviously, because a lot of people saying the Ravens should scratch what they're doing and throw it away. Listen, we in the middle of a daggone season. You don't want to incorporate a whole entire new offense, but do what you do best. But try to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, one thing I'll also say, I remember we were talking about this right after the Ravens lost to the Steelers. I said, the reason why I'm not afraid of the Baltimore Ravens right now is because they could only beat me in one way. And I feel like in that game against the Colts, and really just recently, that's been proven right. Is that right now, the Baltimore Ravens can only beat you in one way. And if you force them to go pass heavy on you, if you get pressure on the quarterback, then I think they're beatable, especially when you look at the fact that in this day and age, when you have a quarterback that could throw, that really gives you the edge over the Ravens, because we saw it in the Kansas City Chief game. I believe when the Ravens are down, they have a really hard time coming back. On Sunday against the Colts, it was the first start in Lamar Jackson's career that his team was losing at halftime, and they ended up coming back to win the game. So for me, that stat says a lot.
And don't get me wrong, like I know we kind of like, you know, being critical of the Ravens as we should be. But there was a couple times during the year where I said, you know, the Ravens showed me a little life. Now, granted, it's not perfect. It's not looking as good as it did last year, especially stats-wise for Lamar Jackson passing the football. Stats would indicate that they regressing. But in some losses, I seen progression. Against the Steelers when they was down, when Lamar Jackson threw that interception on the third play of the game and they was down 7-0, I thought it was a wrap. They did battle back, actually took the lead in that game. They just didn't finish the job. And against the Colts, we saw them being able to come back from behind. So I do think there's little baby steps and there's a little glimmer of hope. But
Well,
guess what? They still got to get better.
Let me ask something, though. At the same time, when you say, okay, a little glimmer of hope, what does that glimmer of hope really mean when your team went 14-2 and won the AFC, or should have won the AFC last year? You know, I think if I'm a Ravens fan,
but I would say this: they went 14-2, blowing out teams. So when they did get behind and they did face some adversity, they wasn't able to pull themselves out of it. Now this year they facing a little bit more adversity. So who's to say that they can't pick up on that Colts comeback, and then when they get to the playoffs, let's say they go down 7-0, they can be able to be like, all right, we showed improvements this year. Coming back from those situations, they could be able to replicate it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think for me, it's just one of those things where we've had this discussion a lot on the show. I take every team on a game-by-game and case-by-case basis. I think you look at the Ravens, and technically what you're saying is right. They beat the Colts. It was the first time in Lamar Jackson's career that they won a game when they were trailing at half, and hopefully you could develop off that. But I just don't think watching that game against the Colts and watching Lamar Jackson do that, I don't think that pushes Baltimore over the edge into my faith category. You know what I mean? I think they have to do a little more. And for me, you're right. You know, they facing a little bit of adversity, that helps. But at the same time, the way I look at it is in that Pittsburgh Steelers game, they were down 7-0. You're right. But they were significantly the better team. They outgained them by like 150 yards, and they blew the game themselves by turning the ball over 4 times. Yeah. And for me, another thing why Lamar Jackson –
I just feel like right now Lamar Jackson needs to limit his turnovers, like needs to keep it simple. You know what I mean? Don't do too much. Because, you know, the last game against the Steelers, you know, he had 4 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 1 was returned for a touchdown, and 2 forced fumbles. And, you know, that's the problem with Jackson. Like, he has a turnover issue. I believe if he managed to calm that down, he could lead his team far in the playoff, in my opinion.